Because obviously the sheep, if he was in the pit or in the ditch overnight, he could get eaten by a wolf and whatever. So that was their livelihood. It was very expensive to do that. What's that?
Milk the cows.
Milk the cows. That's correct. Yes, you have to milk the cow, because if the cow doesn't get milked, something goes wrong. They're cattywampus on the internals or whatever, and they get bloated and they could die, literally. So if the dairy cows don't get milked, they could die. So obviously that's a Sabbath thing that you can do. And then the other one would be to do good. So we had a little bit of discussion here when we did our Compassion Day on a Sunday. All right. So the proper instruction would be, well, you know what? If that's a problem for you, what's that?
You only named 3.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yeah, there's 4. And so the thing is, can we do good on our Sabbath day that we have designated? Well, if you felt about that, like, well, I don't want to violate Sabbath, you take your Sabbath earlier or the day after. All right? So we do our Compassion Day. We work until 3 o'clock on Sunday. Then you need to rest either the previous Saturday or ever, but get your time in. But doing good is a proper thing to not violate the Sabbath. 4th one would be to teach. So if you're teaching, and that doesn't mean has to be on a massive scale. That could be instructing your child or tutoring somebody or just teaching somebody how to do carpentry. If there was a young man that you were mentoring or whatever, and you were teaching, you weren't working per se, you could teach if it was for their betterment and it was part of bringing them closer to God. And again, Isaiah gets into a lot of things, and if you look at the Sabbath has a lot to do with just studying and seeking God, okay? And just spending that time that you would normally spend working, seeking God in some fashion or other. It's not about just sitting down and watching the Steeler game, all right? It's a little bit more about, and I know a lot of times I violate my commitment to God. I want to spend an hour or two just with you and just just strategize for my upcoming week. And when I get into it, it is so cool. It's just like, wow, God, that's neat. Now I feel like I'm emerging into the purpose you have for me, into the destiny you have for me. And that's just what we want to aspire to do. Just get closer and closer to that. God has given us a destiny. He will give us a way to work that out. And remember, we were talking about prayer rests on revelation and obedience. Our answers to our prayers and our communication with God and God speaking to us. We need that revelation, but we need that obedience. And the obedience is obeying the Sabbath, and the revelation will come through that obedience. I think that those go hand in hand. So I can't emphasize enough, guys, find that time. And again, remember, you can split the day. Okay? You can split the day up. Just get your 24-hour Sabbath in. And, is there going to be a cutoff a little bit at the end, a little bit at the beginning, whatever? Yeah, sure, that's going to happen. But just get into that habit of keeping that Sabbath, and you will get blessed for it. Now, you're probably not going to see that direct correlation that, man, if I keep the Sabbath, I'll get blessed. But all of a sudden, things will be ironing out for you, and God will bless that for us. It's one of those proactive ones. But again, remember we were talking about the 10 Commandments, and if you look at the other ones, it's very hierarchical. Murder, adultery, stealing, lying, and coveting. I don't know if I covered all of them there, but coveting is sort of the least one. We all can look and covet things. But go a little bit, back there, false witness, lying, that's bad. And we get into the stealing. Yeah, that's a little bit worse. And then we get into the adultery. Yeah, that's bad. And then we get into murder. Boy, that's really bad. And then we go, honor your father and your mother. The hierarchical thing. But I think the reason for that hierarchy, and again, God never, you will always see that order. That order never changes in the Bible. There's a lot of things that you'll see in the Bible. Love the Lord with all your heart and your soul. love the Lord with all your soul, love the Lord with all your heart and your mind. You'll see these things shift around, the shell game, da-da-da-da-da-da. Not the Ten Commandments. They're always in that order. They were given by that order. And then Jesus confirmed the most important one, like we're talking about in this series, of not making anything your idol. If you obey that one, everything else falls into place. I mean, when you look at murder, the reason we murder someone is because we have an idol. We either murdered them over material things, or a jealousy over a person, or whatever those reasons would be. And the drug deals go down, there's an idol they have. The idol is the drugs or the money or the power. And so that's why murder occurs. So we violate that first commandment, and all the other ones cause problems, or are problematic. So I was going to get into some worldviews, but I encourage you to look at worldviews and study that. We may get into that at some other point, because it's just so important how we perceive things. And what we have in our society right now, we're in a postmodern society, which means there is no truth. Everything's relative. So just because you feel this way about this Christianity thing here, Wes, that's good for you. And it's usually in a condescending way. Yeah, you guys believe that stuff, but I've got my own beliefs, and it's cool. I'm good. And so, but there is truth. And when the postmodernist says to you, there is no truth, you want to come back to them and say, is that a true statement? Because there are absolutes. I mean, I don't know if you ever got into the old argument of, you believe there's absolutes, or there's not any absolutes. And so you can get into a whole discussion over that and say, well, there's no absolutes, or there are absolutes. And if there aren't absolutes, is that an absolute statement? You just go round and round. In worldviews, what we have in our society is, it's a postmodern society, but it synchronizes in evolution, which would be the scientific naturalism. So if I'm an evolutionist and I believe in evolution, and it just never ceases to amaze me how many people, educated people, base their whole belief system on evolution. But I think they sink in postmodernism. There's really not absolute truth. It's kind of, and we blend all these things in. But if you can walk through this, you can pin them down, and they don't know what they believe. They really don't have any firm belief in what they believe in. And unfortunately, a lot of Christians don't know why they believe in what they believe in either. And so we have to be grounded in knowing that Christianity is just really simple. And it's so easy to blend in with that worldview. It just gets so complicated when you're trying to blend in evolution and scientific naturalism and Platonism, like he refers to in the book. And you can read over in the book, he talks about a few others. Existentialism, I just pick up my bootstraps. It's a carte blanche. When I create my world, and it's up to me, the buck stops here, all right? And yeah, but there's some unexplainable things that just don't fit into that category, all right? So worldviews are important. They are important for us when we're trying to get into apologetics and what you would refer to as polemics. Polemics would be sort of attacking a belief system of someone else, because it's easy to take shots at Christianity. We're all up there, and they start blowing away our beliefs because they're so easy to pick apart. But then you can do some counter, and I don't like to use the word refer to attack, because that doesn't accomplish anything. We're not out to win an argument. We're out to convince someone that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And so Ravi has a good baseline premise when you're going to get into a discussion with someone. You want to discuss intent before you discuss content. Because I can throw out the best content going. If you're hell-bound, Ed, on your beliefs, whether it's politics or religion or whatever, and you're not open to discussion, and you're just trying to win an argument, there's no sense in even going further with that discussion. Because our objective is love. Show them that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. We're not out to win an argument. We want to know if their intent is to honestly learn something. And I go to people and I'll say, you know what? I'm pretty firm in my beliefs, but if you got something that you think is really convincing, throw me your best shot. I'd love to hear it. If you're a Hindu or you're a Buddhist or you're a Muslim, lay it on me. What's that? Jehovah's Witness. Now, they're the ones, they got kind of a, they all seem to be nice people. So it's kind of a mishmash of things there. Their intent is to, but their sole intent is to win you over. It's not to go into an open discussion. They're not open for discussion. But you never know when you throw something out there. You could throw a few bones out to them and something may sink in, and we just have to believe that the Holy Spirit can convict some of them. But they're hard. It's a hard win for that because they're just sort of locked in. So in any event, I encourage you to go into the worldviews, look at that worldview section.